Welcome to Your Success Podcast. We give you actionable insight and stories behind real-life success wherever you go. Here are your hosts, Angelos and Mo.
Welcome to Your Success Podcast. I'm Angelos.
And I'm Mo. And today we are really privileged to be joined again by Nicole Bremner. Our last interview with her was so well received that we thought we'd record another one and focus in on social media. Nicole has really focused on her social media game over the last couple of years and mentioned in our last chat that it was one of the best time and cash investments she made in 2017. So just to give you some context for the small minority of people that don't know Nicole, she's a former investment banker and now a property investor with a pipeline of 11 projects totaling £120 million, an Amazon #1 best-selling author with her book Bricking It, speaker and also mum of 3, and her future Amazon #1 best-selling book is titled Prolific Not Perfect, and the book will be out at the end of this year. So thank you for joining us again, Nicole.
Thank you very much for having me.
Nicole, in the last interview, you mentioned that social media was one of the best investments that you've ever made. Can you just explain to our listeners why that is?
It's just because of the opportunities that have come my way as a result of that. And I'm very much a nano influencer. I actually thought that was my own term until I saw Forbes using it, but I'm sure I got in there first. But I'm a nano influencer. I've got just under 16,000 followers on Instagram, around 26,000 on LinkedIn, and about another it's about 7,000 or 8,000 on Facebook, nearly 13,000 on Twitter. So it's small. It's not big by any means when we're looking at people who have hundreds of thousands of followers. But what I do have is a very engaged community of people who follow me because they're interested either in property or investments or just being a woman or a mother. So what I've got is that engagement. And because of that engagement, people have recognized the power of that and have approached me with various opportunities. So one of those is Salacia of London, which is the disruptive bathroom brand that I'm working with. And we've got some really big plans to move that forward and do everything within the homeware lifestyle space. We've got Simple Crowdfunding, who I've worked with a lot over the last couple of years. And look, we're able to raise millions in minutes. And that's all come down to the social media profile and the fact that I have this engaged community around me. The other thing is Quorum, leading out one of those quorums and really working to build that community as well. Again, if I had not had the reach that I do have, I wouldn't have been involved in Quorum and my group wouldn't be as successful and exciting as it is. And then the other one is Bamboo and Diomo, which is an online auction company. And again, they came to me. I met them. I met Robin Rathor on Twitter, and he just wants to bring more women because 50% of people who purchase online through auction are women. And yet when you go into an auction room, there are no women in there. So he just wanted to bring on a woman, but also someone who had interest in property and someone who had reach. And so all these opportunities, as well as my book sales, everything has been down to my reach. And that has been down to the hard work that I've put in since, December 2016, when I really started focusing on it. And all of it's come down to that. So it's not actually been that long.
It's quite a hard thing. Do you find it hard to allocate money to put into social media because you can't really measure the immediate ROI? Obviously, all those things in hindsight have been really good off the back of it, but you couldn't put a price on paying that at the beginning to go into it. So how do you evaluate that in your head?
Yeah, absolutely. I find it very hard, and a lot of social media specialists will say it's all about ROI. But these opportunities that have come, I can't measure that. And these are investments either with my time or my money. And so at the moment, I can't really quantify their value very easily. So it is difficult. All I find is that as I'm becoming more and more stretched, I need to allocate more resources to it, and the cash flows coming in from the various activities that I'm doing, which then support the expansion. So at the moment, just to give you an indication, I've got Paula, who works full-time doing the social media for myself and for our partner brands, Salacia, helping a little bit with Diomo, helping a little bit with Simple Crowdfunding, but mainly Salacia, East 8 London Central Developments, my 2 construction company and marketing branding companies. So she works full-time just on socials. And then we've got another marketing intern who's joining us hopefully for summer, and hopefully she'll stay on as well. And so then we'll have 2 full-time resources. But that is not just my brand, that's on the various other brands as well.
So real investment in real money terms. And so just talking about that, how do you define your social media strategy? So how do you say what time and money you're going to allocate to which platforms and what outcomes you want off the back of it?
Yeah, it's been a little haphazard up until the last couple of months, really. It's just been quite event focused. So what's going on in our day, let's just post about that. And because we're becoming a little more stretched, and because we have got these brands that we're working with, we've had to be a lot more disciplined and methodical about how we approach it. So we do have a bit of a plan. We use an app called later.com where we plan out our Instagram, Twitter, and not so much the Facebook, but mainly Instagram and Twitter posts. And that's been really useful because it shows a calendar view and you can see how all your posts are going to actually look. So later.com, have a look at that. So we are trying to look at various events and plan a bit ahead, because also it's that whole... I love Daniel Priestley. I'm a huge fan of his, as you know, and he talks about this campaign-driven enterprise, and it is about that. It's about building up a campaign to any events that you have or any other anything that you're doing, so that you're teasing out information. So we're having to be a bit more methodical about how we do that.
Nicole, you mentioned that you have a dedicated social media team as you've grown your reach. How much do you personally post versus how much did the team post?
Up until about, I would say, March, April, I did 100% of my own posting for anything that had Nicole Bremner on it. I've got, historically, Jane Scoggs has always looked after anything that said London Central Developments. Then we had Marina Conway-Gordon, who looked after anything that said East 8. In February, Paula came on board and she started helping me with the editing of my photos and the capturing of photos and video. And but now more and more she's helping me with posting. The words are always mine, but she might preload some photos for me so I can then just add captions and do that, because it is becoming a bit much. She's started helping me out with my Facebook stories, my Instagram stories, which I just found out can now be shared on Facebook. Thank you, guys.
Tip.
Yeah, thank you. So she's done maybe 4 or 5 of those for me recently, and it works really well, because actually stories will come back to stories, but stories take up a lot of time. So that's been really useful, having her help me with those. So, but really anything that's got Nicole Bremner on, I do myself.
Okay. And so we touched on it a little bit there. How do you find the time to actually sit and write a post? So you mentioned you don't do it all yourself, but actually the stories part and things like that, when you're out and about, that probably wants to be you. So how do you find the time? Again, I suppose it's about ROI. You can't say it's worth my time sitting here and spending 5 or 10 minutes to construct a story or a post. But so how do you manage that?
Yeah, it's about finding time. And when we were sitting in the cafe before this, I was telling you I didn't sleep very much last night. I only had about 3 hours sleep. So for me, it was that downtime between 12:43 when I could not sleep and 3:46 when I finally did go to sleep, that I did a lot of socials. I got my Twitter back up and running because I'd been so hopeless on Twitter lately. But it's about finding, everyone goes to the toilet at least once a day. There's a few minutes where you can do your socials. Don't pretend you don't do it.
No selfies.
Gary V does. He's done photos of himself peeing. Lovely. You will not get that.
Gary P.
Gary P. Brilliant. So yeah, look, everyone's got these moments of time. I feel a bit scared doing this in Hackney, given that we're in Hackney and there's often people on mopeds that steal your phone. But I'll be walking along and I will be on my phone posting. I'll be on a bus. I do public transport. I'll be in an Uber. I will be anywhere. There's just certain times, if I'm with my kids and we're at the dinner table, we don't do phones because they've all got their phones as well. And if I'm there on my phone, then we don't do that. But there are times I wake up at 6:30 in the morning and my first half an hour is spent just doing my socials and checking. So we all have pockets of time and it's about utilising those.
And do you have one that's a favourite that you always use more than the others, one platform? Yeah,
it definitely is Instagram. I've completely fallen out of love with Facebook, and Instagram's my favourite. I'm finding I've got the most traction on there. Actually, no, LinkedIn I've got a lot of traction on, but I like Instagram. I like the way it looks. I like the way that it operates. I love the stories, the way you can be so creative. I love seeing other people's creativity on that. It's definitely my favorite. It's definitely the flavor of the last 6 months. And it was the last one of the major ones that I did, apart from YouTube. I'm terrible at YouTube, and that's definitely the focus.
I mean, talking of Instagram, you've built up a significant following. How have you managed to do that?
Yeah, Instagram is such a game, and it's frustrating. And there's some days where I feel like just deleting my account and not playing the game. Honestly, it really is. And it actually, you can see why a lot of teenagers feel such emptiness and hollowness around the likes, because really you do get these dopamine hits every time you get comments and likes. And Instagram, I think, is one of the biggest offenders of that. And yeah, some days I just want to shut it all down and not look at it, because it is a game. There's this following, unfollowing. And I find that in a single day, I might have 120 people follow me every single day, but then 70 of those will go. Brilliant. And you just think there's this constant 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes I was away one weekend and didn't do anything, any following or posting or anything, and my followers went backwards. And so you do actually have to constantly work at your Instagram.
And is it a vanity thing, showing that you've got loads of followers but you don't follow many people because you're so important?
Yeah, I think it is a vanity thing. I try not to do that. I did just delete about 1,000 people that I follow and got it back down to around 3,000, only because my feed was full of stuff. And look, everyone loves their own kids, but I really don't want to see your kids.
That's the point. Everyone loves their own kids.
Yeah, exactly. And I love my own kids. I really don't like many other people's children. And I don't want to have to see their children, except if they're my really close friends. Obviously, I love your children and friends. But I just found that there was so much that I was missing the people who I really wanted to follow. But again, if you've got too few, then why would people follow you? Because they know you're not going to. If you've got 500 people that you follow, people go, there's no way this person's going to follow me back. I'm not even going to bother. If you've got 3,000 or 4,000 people that you follow, they think, okay, there's a slight chance here that this person is going to follow me back, so I'll follow them. It is such a game. But with that, you have to, whether you like it or not, every single day, go on and follow people. Right. If they don't follow you back after about 2-3 days, unfollow them. And that is what you have to do every single day.
Wow. It's brutal out there.
Yeah, it is.
It's a hard life.
And so there's following and then commenting. Do you comment on other people's posts? Do you find that helps?
Absolutely. It's all about engagement, and every single platform. It's social media for a reason. It is social. So you have to be on there. You've got to be liking. You've got to be commenting. Liking's not enough. One good way of getting a lot of interest off people, if just say there's someone that you really want to follow. So I want Your Success podcast to follow me, because they're not at the moment. I'm sure you are, but if they're not, if you were not, then one really good way to get people's attention is just to like and comment on a dozen of their posts. And then all of a sudden they open up their little hearts and they can see you and they go, oh, who is this person? They're going to go and have a look at you. So that's a strategy for getting someone that you really want to follow you. But you have to keep that up.
I like that. Open up your little social heart.
Yeah. Maybe you could do that with Kylie.
So if Kylie's listening,
which she is, obviously.
Which obviously she is, we would love to interview you at some point in the future.
So you like older blonde Australians?
Wait a minute.
Oh, hello.
That's another podcast.
Yeah, that's a separate one. So it's really, so you've built up a massive following, almost not one by one, but effectively that's how hard it is. You've got to just put in the work.
It is.
No shortcuts.
There's no shortcuts. And I think just to give you an idea of how mine's grown, I think Paula, who does my socials for me, when she came on board in February of 2018, I think I was at around 12,000 followers. And since then, so February, March, April, May, end of May, 3 months, I've gained 3,000, roughly 3,000 followers. So yeah, it's 1,000 a month. So it's a lot. Yeah. But it's been consistently 1,000 a month since I started.
I didn't realise that volume of people would unfollow you, and if you get 120 and then 70 off, you're only up 50 for the day.
It's savage.
It's savage.
It's a dog eat dog world out there, mate.
It is.
So we're gonna actually record another shorter podcast on specific tips for each platform. So we'll come back to that. But let's talk about Facebook. Do you think Facebook's peaked? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, definitely. And I've got some statistics that I tweeted at, I think, around 2:30 in the morning that I thought were really pertinent today that I wanted to share with you. Because obviously, just to backtrack from that, is I went to an excellent talk by VaynerMedia in the UK recently. And thanks to Ozan Redknapp for inviting me along to that. So it was the global strategist of VaynerMedia who came and gave this talk, another older Australian there. And she was absolutely brilliant. And she talked about Gen Z and millennials and the trends and how they're utilizing social media and how advertising impacts them. And it was just really interesting to see how they use socials. And the reason is what they do, us older people follow quite quickly, actually. So it's not about what we do now, it's about what Gen Z are doing so that we can then follow on. So that's why it's really, really important for us when we're looking at socials and where we allocate our time to look at what the Gen Z are doing. So these statistics that it's up on my Twitter. So if you just go to Nicole Bremner at Twitter, you will see I've tweeted this, and we can probably put a link here in the podcast as well.
Yep.
I think it was a Pew study, but don't quote me on that. So of 13 to 17-year-olds, Facebook's actually dropped out of the top 3 platforms. Only 10% say that Facebook is their most used platform, which is phenomenal. Given that there are 2 billion users of Facebook, the teens are not using it. So the 85% use YouTube, which my kids are constantly on YouTube. That is their number 1 platform by far. Instagram is 72%, and Snapchat is still holding in there at 69%, and Facebook's trailing at 51%. So I thought that's a really interesting statistic to show that it's us older people who are using it, and pretty soon we're all going to leave it as well. And I did a blog rant yesterday, and on how I find that Facebook is my traction on Facebook. I used to post a video and get 3,000-4,000 views. Now I post, I'm lucky to get 300 to 600 views. My lives are still getting quite a lot, but it's just harder and harder to build a community without using clickbait, and I won't stoop to clickbait. So I think that Facebook's definitely peaked. And I think that more and more businesses and people are going away from it as a result, because there's just easier ways to build. So there's some other statistics, if you don't mind, that I can share with you. And these are around online usage among adults and teens. So 45% of these young people aged 13 to 17 are always online. So I know when I said this, you said, Angelos, you said, oh no, that's such a shame. But it's not a shame. It's just what's happening. Socials are here to stay. And pretty soon we won't even call them socials. We'll just call it being online. With our kids, they don't say, I've just got to go online. They're always online. They don't even think about it being anything different, just to normal life. Whereas for us, I remember having to plug in the cable to get online, and and you'd finally get online. They don't understand that. So you've got to realize that this is the future. There's no getting away from socials or being online. So the number of minutes has increased from 90 minutes a day through to 135 minutes a day. Now, and that's just for social media use over the last, 10 years? 9 years, sorry. So over the last 9 years, the number of minutes spent on social media has gone to from 90 minutes to 135 minutes. But this is what's really, really interesting. This is adults, so us. Our usage over that period has increased from 2.7 hours a day of being, this is being online, sorry, let me clarify. So adults are now increasing from 2.7 hours a day to 5.9 hours a day that we sit online. And you asked the question about whether that includes Netflix or Netflix and chill, but I don't know. I'll have to look into those.
My chilling is fairly limited these days.
To older blonde Australians.
So that's really, really interesting. We will share the stats, because that's super interesting. I think what I always thought about Facebook is that they had such a dominance. Like, you've got, maybe this is just an older person speaking, they've got all of our photos and everything over the last 10, 12 years it's been around, that if we stop using it, would we lose all of that back catalogue of your life and things like that? What do you think about that? Because there's nothing that's immediately going to replace that in terms of those kind of things.
Instagram, but remember it's owned by Facebook anyway, so it still benefits them. But yeah, you're right. It's I was talking to a friend yesterday, and I said, I hope there's photographers at this triathlon that I'm doing on Sunday, because if it's not captured and shared, it didn't happen. So there's all this history. If we don't use it, we're going to lose it, and it never happened. So I do think that there is an element of stickiness with these socials. You have to be on there, and Gary Vaynerchuk actually says that it's not about whether a platform's going to succeed or fail. It's about how you use it and how you can use various elements of the strategies that you need for the various platforms to help you with your other platforms that may. So I found this really interesting meme, I guess, again at probably about 1 a.m. this morning, and it highlights for me the difference between the socials and how you should apply them. So Twitter, I am eating a cake. Facebook, I like eating cake. YouTube, this is how I eat cake. LinkedIn, my skills include eating cake. Instagram, here's the classic pic of the cake that I eat. Your blog, here's my cake, and this is how I eat it. And then there's Pinterest, which shows then the recipe for the cake. And this is a bit outdated. I think there are more things that we can add to that. But that just shows you the difference in how you approach the different platforms. And so regardless of whether they win or they lose, all these skills and how you broadcast.
Which I think is important when you think from a business point of view or from a personal branding point of view, that you have to make the content native to that platform and not just take a picture and post it across all the same,
Never.
Which is, I think, really important.
Yeah, never, yeah.
How do you separate your business and personal profiles on Facebook, Nicole? But you don't on Instagram. So can you tell us how you make that division?
Yeah, I think for anyone who is just starting off now, you should only work on your personal profile. Because, and I use this analogy often when I'm speaking, I'm sure you've heard it before, that if I'm in front of an audience, I'll say, how many people have heard of Steve Jobs? And everyone goes, yes. And Apple, yes. How many people have heard of Bill Gates? Yes. And Microsoft. And then I'll go, how many people have heard of Berkshire Hathaway? And a few hands will go up. And I go, Warren Buffett, and everyone puts their hands up. It's all about the person behind the brand. That's who we're curious about. We all know the stories of the big brands, and they're interesting, but what we really want to know is the stories. And it's all about the stories that you tell and who you are as a whole person. And it's also, if you go to a networking event, they might say, oh yeah, I remember that guy, he had great hair.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
But imagine if you were, say, a skydiver.
Yeah.
They go, oh yeah, that guy with the great hair who was the skydiver. It's something different that sets you apart, especially, so shall I say it, a white male at an event. You're one of very many, and so if there's nothing that you've got that sets you apart from other people, then you blend in. And so it's about having these different points of differentiation from other people. So for me, it's about getting my personal story across, and there's many angles to me. I'm a mother, I'm an investor, I go to Ibiza a lot, I'm a little bit cheeky.
You're going to get sponsored by an airline soon.
Oh, that would be great. British Airways, if you're listening,
direct
I
flights
always
to
fly.
Ibiza, unlimited.
All Venga boys might be interested.
Yeah. So how do you, with what you just said, how do you then separate, or do you not separate out your kids and all of those kind of things? Because surely you want to, because on Facebook you have a private one, which is friends and family, and then you have the business one. But if you're saying that going forward it has to be all about your personal profile, how do you keep something sacred or secret?
Yeah, it's about what you choose to share. Right. So for me, my kids, very, very rarely I'll have pictures of my kids, and generally if I do, they're from the back or they're blurred out.
They run in on your Monday motivation lives.
Yeah, go for it. But it's about having set guidelines that you will adhere to about how you portray certain sides of your personal life. My children's father is not on any of my socials, so I think if you go to Google and put Nicole Bremner, the next thing that comes up is husband. After that, it's age. So that's what people are Googling.
And then address.
And then court order. I've been told.
I'm not going there. So yeah, it's about having these guidelines and knowing what your boundaries are. And I think that it's about building your personal brand. So with Facebook as a strategy, I've got my private page, which obviously I started 12 years ago, and that's now completely locked down. And then I've got my public profile page, which sounded really wanky when I set it up, but it's very important because then I can just, and also I've got all my friends that have nothing to do with business or property, and they don't want to be bombarded by all my property and business stuff. They don't want to watch this live right now. They want to see what I'm wearing and what I'm doing in Ibiza.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's about separating that, and I do think that it's about building your own personal profile rather than the business profile.
I'm really struggling at the moment because I think I've got like 2,000 or so friends on my personal friends Facebook, but my business personal profile is like 150 people or something, and I'm trying to like kind of get people to move across, but then I always want to tag things where the audience is and things like that. So that's a real challenge. I saw that you were doing some cross posting when you first started your thing. Is that the best way to do it, or are there other ways to? Yeah,
look, the very best, and I was going to put this when we talk about the tips, but the best way is advertise. Right. You've got to throw some money behind it, because otherwise Facebook are not going to give you any time. So you just have to put some cash behind it. But you've got to ask your friends to follow you. Actually, there was some guys that I was mentoring, lovely James and Ricky at Darlow Hemphill, and they did a really great thing where they said, okay, if anyone shares this, we're going to put you into a draw to win £50. And £50 is a lot of money. It's enough to hit a share button. Definitely. And so if you share and you like our page, we'll put you in the draw to win £50. And they got so many people who liked and shared their pages. And that's just something really simple that cost them 50 quid. And it didn't go to
do that.
Zuckerberg.
Because that sounded like a modern day tragedy there, Mo, when you're talking about your lack of likes.
The tear to the eye. But it's the same, because you get pressure from people that are like, can you separate out your stuff? So like you say, your friends and family, like they love you, but they don't necessarily want to hear about everything you're doing every day. Like they want to know more about your personal stuff. So that's really good. Let's talk about your Monday motivational Facebook Lives. Firstly, if you can explain what they are for people that haven't seen them, and then what impact have they had on your reach, and how have you found them?
Yeah, so with Facebook, one of the top tips is to go live, because that Facebook are still prioritizing that over and above any other form of video. So Marina and I did this test once where we put the same video out just as a video after the event, obviously, and then we put the same, we did a video as a live, and we just found that the views were 100-fold more than the views for the actual video, only because Facebook prioritize it. So Facebook are going to put it in feeds. They love live. They want people to use live. So Monday Motivation started off at 6:30 a.m. on a Monday morning, just me talking about various issues or anything that I wanted to talk about, really, and have that conversation with people. And it's now gone to 8:30 on a Monday morning when I'm in the country and not in Ibiza, or if there's not a bank holiday, which there are too many at the moment. But it's a way of me building my community and having engagement. And I've got the same lovely people who join every Monday. If they can't see it live, they watch it afterwards, they post, they comment, and it really is about building a community. And there may only be 10, 15, 20 people who do that, but still that's that beautiful community, and I feel like I know these lovely regulars. So that is probably the top tip on how to build your Facebook. Is I would recommend picking a slot, owning that slot, and having a topic that you discuss, and it could be midday with Mo or something like that, where you
just write that down.
where you talk about something.
Very busy part of the day.
Exactly. That's why I chose the morning and Monday. So again, go
so it's
live.
like a brand in itself. It's like a sub brand of and it must be quite nice for you knowing that you can help people as well. It's part of, as much as it's helping to grow your reach, it's also you're really providing value to people in that. And also the Q&A aspect is that you're telling them what they want to know about, not just what you think they need to know about.
Yeah, exactly. Look, you've got to be careful in lives, because remember, they are live. So I have been proposed to live, and then this guy got very upset that I said no, and just could not understand why I would not want to marry someone who lived in another country and I'd never met. So interesting. And then
can you block people on that?
Yeah, I blocked him. As he got more and more aggressive. And then yesterday, am I allowed to say a naughty word?
You said wanky already.
Yeah, so wanky, so it's already going to have an explicit.
I actually can't swear. I didn't know
go
wanky.
on.
But anyway, this guy yesterday said to me, have you ever had a pet parrot? And I wrote back with, no, but I actually had a cockatoo once called Humphrey, and he used to talk to us and say, hello, Humphrey. And he goes, yeah, I thought you'd like a cock or two.
Oh, God.
Actually, this is offensive. It made me angry. And it's fun. It is funny, but
it's not witty, is it? Come on. That's basic, isn't it? Come
so
on.
I deleted and blocked him. But these things are live, so you've got to be prepared that people will put up things that you're not happy about. They may call you out on things, and you just have to be ready to respond to those.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we won't get proposed to anytime soon.
No, hopefully.
By an older Australian blonde.
Yeah. It happens. Joining our Facebook Live. Should be logging on at midday to Midday with Mo.
Midday with Mo, I love it. Nicole, I think I know what you're going to say, but what do you think the best platform, if you're starting out from scratch, which one would you choose to begin with?
Well, it depends.
Oh.
It really depends, Angelos, because it depends if you're a visual or more of a wordy person. Because if you look at Anthony Slumbers, he's a wonderful, wonderful guy and a good friend and an incredible expert on spaces serviced and serviced accommodation, serviced offices, etc. He is very good at writing. If you put him on Instagram, it wouldn't work for him. So the best platform really is the one that works best for you. I think LinkedIn, everyone should just be on it. I think it's probably the second most important platform right now behind Instagram and actually YouTube, Instagram and LinkedIn together. So LinkedIn, absolutely, just get on there and we'll talk about that later when we do the tips. But Twitter is brilliant still. And I would use them. You might not be for Instagram, but you might be for Twitter. You don't have to be on both, but you should be on one or the other. And it just depends whether you have the energy and the drive to do photos of yourself in various yoga poses all day, or whether you want to write about various things.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So we've mentioned it a little bit, but I want to talk about personal brand pages. So Nicole Bremner as a brand versus the companies that you support. You said what should you focus on, which is your personal brand always, but how do you make sure that you keep the output going on those other pages? So we've got a few property businesses and they've all got their own pages, but their followings are pretty pitiful compared to, I haven't got a great following, but it's less than that, just purely because, like you say, when you're out and about, you're posting about what you're doing and things like that, and you're increasing your personal brand, but not those business ones. So how do you make sure that you put adequate time into those as well?
It's just about including them in the conversation. So I think the primary focus should always be on your personal one. But if you are, so in my Instagram bio, I couldn't fit any more than 2 of the companies I own. So I had the links, the handles for 2 of the companies that I own or have an interest in. And it's just about including those constantly. So in your Instagram stories, if you're working on your success podcast today, and then all your story is about that. So while you might be doing it from your Mo account, you're still linking in and talking about the company name so people can see that, and it will slowly grow. But it's just about awareness, really. Yeah. And if you're talking about it and it's yours, then people will become more brand aware.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Collaboration is great for growth, as we know. Especially when it comes to social, because you want to increase your reach and your following. What do you look for when you want to collaborate with someone or a company, for example?
Yeah, so I've collaborated with, as I said, Diomo and Bamboo, Simple Crowdfunding, Silesia, and Quorum. And there are a couple more that I'm talking to at the moment as well. For me, I've got to first of all see that I've got the time to do it and see that it's mutually beneficial, and also, most importantly, is that I really believe in in the person or the product that I'm either talking with or collaborating with. I have to believe in it. And I've been approached by people before, and I've looked at that and thought, I can't explain succinctly in a few minutes what you do, in a few seconds what you do. I don't understand it. And actually, I would never use it. So why would I promote a boxing glove if I never do any boxing? It's just disingenuous. It's got to be something that I believe in and that my team believes in, because they've got to do the promotion as well. And it's got to be a person who I think their morals and values align with mine. Otherwise, I'm really not interested in it, because it's taken years to build the profile that I have, and it can take minutes to destroy by partnering with the wrong brand or person. as many people have seen with quite high profile cases. So it's just look at Roseanne Barr recently. It's completely exploded, and that's just one moment of miscalculation that's caused that. So you just have to be extremely careful. What you say goes out to so many people and influences people, which can be great, but it also can be really, really bad. And you've just got to be really careful to manage your brand. And it always helps to have someone else doing if you're putting out something that could be controversial, have someone else. Just sanity check it with someone else. I've got Marina, and I go, Marina, should I post this? And she'll go, no. So just be careful with who you collaborate with and make sure your values are aligned.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I also wanted to talk about the collaborating on podcasts and things like that, and on Facebook Lives and stuff. How do you make sure that you're not diluting what you're saying or who you're working with just so you can get followers? Because to give you an example, we've had discussions where we're saying, this would be a great podcast guest, or this company would be great to speak to, but how do we fit it into what Your Success Podcast is about as a brand? So have you ever had that where you know that you'll pick up some followers and some likes from that, but actually they're not aligned to what you're doing? Yeah,
I definitely, as far as public speaking, I had a complete break for a few months because I was sick of hearing myself, and I was sick of saying the same thing over and over again. I thought, well, if I'm sick of hearing myself, then other people are going to be sick of it. So it's about, if you read Gary Vaynerchuk, he says, take up every opportunity, do everything, because even if you only get 1 or 2 likes or followers or fans, whatever it might be, that's 1 or 2 more. But it's hard to, I think you do need to be a little bit selective and just ensure that you're not just doing it because you want the likes or the followers. You're doing it because they generally fit into what it is you do, which is why I've made my podcast as broad as possible, which means I can interview anyone I like. Whereas people who are more, so look at Inside Property Investing, Mike and Victoria Stenhouse, theirs is all about property. So they can't really variate from that. So it's about just finding the niche that you want. And often micro niches, do work better.
Yeah, well, they can pick up more of a focused audience sooner, but then they're restricted on who they can have. So okay, no, that's great.
Well, it's lots of great tips there, Nicole, and I know we're going to be putting together some top 3 tips for the social platforms that we've chosen. So can you tell us a little bit about the Property Go Live event and how people can get in contact with you?
Yeah, I love our Property Go Live event. We do those as a collaboration with Rob Lee, and he's an expert on Snapchat and on storytelling across social media. And as soon as I met Rob, I just really wanted to work with him. He's such a lovely guy. And so we have a whole day workshop, which really does expand on how you tell your story across social media, because really the best way to reach your audience is via stories. And I don't just mean the Instagram stories, but it's actually the way you tell your stories. So we have these full-day events, and we sit down and we work out what everyone's authentic voice is going to be and how they can apply that to the stories, and what stories that they're going to tell across the various platforms, which platforms they're going to focus on, how to go live, because going live on any platform, YouTube's even got a live function now. Oh, another one I've got to work on. So it's about how to go live, how to embrace this, and then they come out with a 30-day planner of exactly what they're going to post on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So that's really what it is. It's this that we're talking about now, but a whole day and really focused on each individual.
This may sound like a bit of a funny question, but how do people find you?
They can't find you. You're doing something. They're doing something wrong. Yeah.
There is actually a Nicole Bremner on Instagram that gets really annoyed with me because people keep going to hers, but just give me the Nicole Bremner then. Yeah. So Instagram at NS Bremner, Twitter at Nicole Bremner, Facebook, the best one is the Nicole S. Bremner, LinkedIn Nicole Bremner, YouTube Nicole Bremner. Am I missing Snapchat? I don't do Snapchat anymore, sorry. I think that's it. Okay. On my website. NicoleBremner.com.
Old school.
Property Go Live, when's the next one?
September
We'll put the date
16th, I think.
Yeah. Around about then.
Yeah, around about then.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's a Monday.
We'll put the date in.
Okay.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, it is.
So thank you again for your time. But we want to know your thoughts at home on social media and what you have found works. So send us an email at hello@yoursuccesspodcast.com. People still use email? I guess, as well as socials. Yeah, you don't know. Or get in touch on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. So thank you for listening to Your Success Podcast. Please click subscribe, leave us a review, and we look forward to your comments on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. And don't forget to subscribe to our book launch, which Nicole has said she'll be at.
Yes.
So that's out there. That's out there now. So she's got to be there. You can sign up there at tiny.cc/your book.
So thanks again, Nicole. I've been Angelos.
And I've been Mo.
And see you again on the next exciting episode of Your Success Podcast.
You have been listening to Your Success Podcast. Click subscribe for more incredible content. More details can be found at www.yoursuccesspodcast.com.